guest, Darren Audia, Senior Director of Virginia Tile. Thank you again for joining this episode of Spectrum of Topics. Excited to talk to you today. For our listeners, why don't you do kind of a brief introduction, maybe a little bit of background of kind of your kind of career journey to Virginia Tile, and then we can kind of talk more specifics about your role there at the organization.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate you inviting me on. My name's Darren Audia. I'm the Senior Director of Real Estate Development for Virginia Tile. I've been with Virginia Tile about 2.5 years now. Came over from healthcare. Long story, but how I got here, but glad to be here. It's been a great move. And Virginia Tile's got a lot of exciting things happening right now. So
I know. Well, I'm super excited to talk about that because there is so many really great things, not only about your organization, but just some exciting times for you guys. So kind of we'll jump into that. Maybe share a little bit more about what we're talking about around like a recent kind of press release, and maybe share and tell the listeners a little bit in further detail on that.
Well, Virginia Tile is a private equity owned company. We were just acquired in June from a group called Translo out in California. The exciting thing about the acquisition is that they also own another flooring distribution company called Gallagher out on the West Coast. So great company. Had the fortunate ability to get out there and see some of their sites and meet some of the people. Great organization, doing great things. Wood flooring, vinyl flooring, so a nice complement to what we offer in the tile business. So looking forward to seeing these two great companies merge together. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And like, I think this line of the press release, I'm just going to read it too. I think this is really interesting and kind of sums up a little bit what we're going to talk about. So together, these two companies have a great geographical reach and will provide customers with complementary products and additional resources to kind of help solve complex problems. The combination of these two best-in-class distributors will benefit our suppliers, companies, employees, while maintaining an attention to detail, values and their reputation that they've kind of all individually built, but now you guys can do that together, right? I think that was an interesting line that kind of really, knowing you guys, knowing, working with you on the current project with Plymouth, working with Ed, Claire, just some other kind of employees at your organization, I felt like that really kind of summed up, who you guys are, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, they're a great company. It's gonna be fun to watch this integration portion of it, where we're gonna take our best practices of both companies and try to create, one really great company.
Yeah.
And it's scary when you have an acquisition like this at the same time, but it's exciting because now we just become one of the top 5 flooring distributors in the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
So the opportunities are going to be robust for us, but there's some time in this transition. It's not like we're going to start cross-selling products immediately. There's some learning that needs to happen here. So, but looking forward to the next 18 months for sure.
Oh yeah. Okay. So that's kind of the runway, is really that transition period of the next like 18 to 24 months, would you say?
I mean, I think we try to accelerate it if we can. But right now it's just we're learning who Gallagher is. Gallagher is learning who Virginia Tile is. And, our leadership is trying to get the integration plans going. So right now it's business as usual for Virginia Tile, and we're focused on what we need to do to keep growing Virginia Tile. And then Gallagher people are doing the exact same thing. But eventually over time, you'll start to see the Gallagher brand and the Virginia Tile brand come together. So
under one umbrella, maybe you can't share this, but like under one name, would it be kind of rebranded as a name, or would it be both names?
No, I think, well, Gallagher has a very strong name on the West Coast. Obviously, Virginia Tile is a very strong name here in the Midwest.
Yeah.
I don't see any transition of those two names going away.
Okay.
There will be a parent organization that oversees both, but I don't see us dropping the Gallagher or Virginia Tile name anytime soon. I'll say that.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. So kind of tell us a little bit about then, how then that translates and kind of or impacts the real estate and kind of facilities initiative that, you're running. I mean, maybe we back up to maybe tell us a little bit about your role kind of within Virginia Tile and what that kind of consists of and what you're doing from a overseeing and management perspective.
Yeah, I work very heavily with the operations team. I mean, I don't get involved in so much in the warehouse activities and things like that. For me, it's about building efficiencies.
Mhm.
How do we use our economy and scale to create better efficiencies within our system, right? Whether it's unifying our trash pickup throughout the organization or getting us better contracts with Cintas or whatever the things that we deal with. I work with the operations team to help with that.
Mhm.
I also handle all the day-to-day real estate activities and then also any construction projects, remodels, greenfields that we're doing. And this is why I'm working with you right now. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So do you think in the future, will it kind of change will it change the direction that your team has from a real estate standpoint, on some of those initiatives that, within these next kind of 18 to 24 months? Do you think that you see that kind of changing and evolving?
with the Gallagher
Yeah.
acquisition.
Yep.
Um, so I think Virginia Tile has their marching orders for the next 2 years. I think Gallagher has their marching orders for the next 2 years. I think once we, execute on those things, then we'll start to see what a combination of the two organizations look like, right? Now, from a greenfield standpoint.
Greenfield, you keep saying that. I don't think I'm familiar.
New
Greenfield,
store development.
new store. Okay.
Yeah,
And that's helpful too, probably for our listeners that don't know a greenfield. Is that a term used like in the industry? Common?
we use it. Makes sense to us.
Okay. I just haven't heard that yet. New store development. Okay. Greenfield. Well, I learned something. I
There
want
you
to
go.
try to learn something
I'm
new
glad
every
this is
day,
educational for you, Celeste.
right? Because I need to improve my probably vocabulary. Um, okay. So this kind of is may seem a little bit of a repeat question, but I think this was really fascinating, and this is kind of the work that and where we got introduced to you and Ed Vasky, who's the chief operating officer, is the operational, because you kind of talked about your role and really being instrumental in that. So tell us a little bit about your operational approach. So kind of why you came on board 2 years ago, the direction that you and Ed are kind of working on to try to create some efficiencies as it relates to kind of your real estate facilities. Maybe walk us through how you guys kind of developed and implemented some of that change and transition.
Yeah, so if you look at the history of Virginia Tile was originated here in Michigan, even though we're named Virginia Tile, the grandfather of our original ownership started in Virginia with a truckload of tile and brought it up to Michigan, hence Virginia Tile. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, so here we are in the Midwest. We don't even have a store in Virginia, which we should probably work on, uh, but Virginia Tile grew through acquisitions of a couple different companies, ISC Services and RBC. In 2016, that basically developed our Midwest footprint. Okay, and so when you take on other organizations, properties and buildings and bring them into one, you start to see kind of an overlap or redundancy or an excess of square footage, right? And so from my standpoint, from a real estate standpoint, we really focused on, all right, how do we make ourselves more efficient from our building layout? One, how do we get more product in the buildings that we're struggling? So we took a hard look at our racking design and we came up with a new design. And our operations people were very instrumental in that, coming up with this is what our racking should look like, right? I'll give you an example. In St. Louis, we had a 78,000 square foot facility that we just reopened a new facility in January of this year. We went from 78,000 square feet down to 33,000 square feet. Not only did we able to put all our product in that building, when it was all said and done, we had 400 open bins once we moved all the product over because of our new layout. So just getting ourselves more efficient. Southeastern Michigan, big real estate footprint, dove into that. We came to the conclusion that we don't need 170,000 square feet in southeastern Michigan. So We're actually opening a new building probably next year, fall of next year. That's gonna be one of our distribution hubs here in Michigan,
Sure.
plus incorporate one of our showrooms into the building, and we're dropping from 170,000 square feet to 95,000 square feet. So significant savings from an organization standpoint, and just making ourselves more efficient from a physical layout, but then from a just cost effective as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you think then that kind of has any impact on, um, or did you guys look at any sort of changes to how it relates to kind of customer service and things like that? Like, is there any sort of, you're talking about efficiencies of real estate and understand that from the different organizations that I'm talking about, a lot of them right now are looking at kind of creating some efficiencies as it relates to just size, right? But any sort of interesting things or kind of through the lens of customer service that you guys kind of really looked at and felt like, okay, we could create some efficiencies here as it relates to operations, to kind of continue to help provide high quality customer service.
Well, so I'm glad you brought that up, because it's when I was in healthcare, the one thing I learned was physical environment makes a huge impact, right?
Mm,
And so I'm a big believer in you have one shot for a first impression.
mhm.
And in healthcare, understand, I mean, people don't come there because they're feeling good, right? So for us, it was very important to create this kind of welcoming environment. It was make people feel comfortable. It was somewhere that they're not having a great time in their life. So hopefully you can at least experience a good environment when you come there, right?
Mhm.
So taking that mentality and bringing it here to Virginia Tile, it was all right, how do we make the best first impression we can on our customers, on our clients? When you walk into a Virginia Tile, um, we're hoping that you're inspired, right? You're doing something positive in your house. You're redoing your kitchen, you're redoing your bathroom, whatever it may be, right? We're hoping that you walk into one of our environments and say, oh, I love this. I want to see this in my house, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's not just for our clients as well. I mean, our customers, it's for our employees too. I mean, being in the business that you're in, it helps with employee retention,
Mm,
right? To come to a place that you wanna enjoy working in every single day, right? You spend a
yeah.
lot of time at the work, right? I'll go back to healthcare. We had one example. It was we had a contact center. We had 400 employees there. We were experiencing 50% attrition in this one location, right? And I'm not saying physical environment's everything, but
Yeah.
it does help, right?
Yep.
So we redid the contact center. We put all new furniture in. We brought the sunlight in from outside because
Yep.
all the high cubes were blocking all the light. New furniture, new break room, redid the restrooms. And now there was a managerial change and we looked at pricing, but the physical environment itself, that in 1 year's time after doing that, we went from 50% attrition to 20% attrition. And that's
Wow.
huge savings for an organization.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying physical environment's everything,
Yeah.
but it does have a huge impact.
For sure. Oh, we see that every day when we're talking to organizations. They implemented these hybrid work policies, but I think it needs to go a step further and like really looking at, to your point, like the physical space and what some kind of great updates that we could do to give kind of a good working environment for our employees, right?
That's a
So,
great point. I mean, especially with this hybrid work environment that we have right now, and you're starting to see this trend that people are asking their employees to come back to work, right? Well, how are you going to get them back to work? I mean, they're sitting in the comforts of their home. And
yep.
so you start to see this kind of like resumercial type of look
Yes.
now in the
Yes.
environment. And
Yeah.
so, the chairs are more comfortable, the soft seating is more comfortable.
Mhm.
It's starting to
Oh,
transition.
yeah.
We need to, as we start to bring people back to the work environment of the office, I'd say, I mean, your employers are going to have to do something to
Yep.
intrigue people to come back, for
For
sure.
sure. Oh, for sure. And that's interesting that you say that. We call it, we're seeing tons of hospitality influence throughout
Mm.
just the kind of commercial office space right now in the industry. It's very, very huge. And much to the part where you were talking about, people are used to working at home. So you got to kind of provide different ways of working within kind of your office and things like that. So kind of building upon that, I've had an opportunity to tour a couple of your other showrooms, like you're talking about, that have had recent renovations. It was very apparent in our early conversations with you and Ed, the importance that you guys really place on the people within your organization, and that matters, and kind of building a culture. I think you kind of said it really nicely in the kind of answering the question before, is that that has huge impacts on just the way people feel about coming to work and the culture in that. Can you share a little bit about what some of the employees' initial thoughts are of the spaces that you guys have renovated, like in St. Louis, Indianapolis, Elk Grove? I know we're underway with Plymouth, but yeah, maybe share a little bit about the feedback.
Yeah, it's easy for me to sit here in the corporate office. I'm not customer facing, right? So it going back to what I was saying, the work environment is not only set up for the customer, but it's set up for the employees too, right? For them to enjoy coming in. They're the ones who are facing the customers every single day. They're the ones who have to interact with the customers. And our people on the ground are what make Virginia Tile, right? I mean, there's a reason why we're, one of the top distributors of ceramic tile in the Midwest, and it's because of the people on the ground who are actually customer facing. So it's, for us, it's important that they're comfortable in the environments that they're in. Yes, we want to inspire people when they walk in our showrooms, but our employees have to be inspired as well, right? They're the ones who are customer facing.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. That's great. I mean, they're beautiful facilities, like all of the ones I listed.
Yeah,
I've been
thank
to a
you.
couple of them. They're really, really beautiful. Maybe share with our listeners, since we are working on a project, take this kind of opportunity to ask you and be able to kind of share your experience and what it's been like working with our firm at for your Plymouth, Minnesota showroom.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were great. We went through a bid process, as you know, and the one thing that really stuck out to me with Spectrum Interiors is that not only you as the business development person, but your entire team, you guys really gave the impression that you wanted the job, right? And that was important to us, right? It was like, wow, this group really wants to do this work with us. And so we're always looking for great partners in the industry to help us do what we want to do. And the fact that you guys were really inspired by our vision, right? And actually took our vision and put it on paper for us. And now you're actually doing the work. It's been great. But I will say, from my standpoint, your due diligence leading up to the actual work was so key, because change orders are project killers, right?
Yep.
And budget killers. And the due diligence that you guys did leading up to it really cut down on the surprises that we were going to see. Even though we had a couple, as we've talked about,
Yep.
stuff that you guys, there's no way you could have seen until you took down the walls. But there were other things that could have happened if you didn't do the work ahead of time. And so that I really appreciated.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, last question. I mean, I know we haven't had a chance to play golf yet, which that was going to be my other question. I'm bummed about that. We still need to do that. It is golf weather still till October, so we have time still.
Even in Minnesota?
Well, I don't know. Maybe snowing October 1st. So if we get it in September. But I think you shared with me, if you had to pick a song to kind of like be the theme for your life, what would the song be? Like your theme song.
I have no idea. I have no idea. I
Come on.
I have no
What?
idea. The theme of my life?
Yeah, like
Oh my
summarize
God.
your life. Like what? Living on a prayer, Bon Jovi.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad one. Yeah. Do fly by the seat of my pants sometimes, that's for sure. So
Oh, that's too funny.
that wasn't in the pre-call questionnaire, so I wasn't prepared for that.
Well, come on, think on your feet. I knew you could handle like a curveball. Come on. Really, seriously, think of a song. You can't? Living on a prayer, that's what your final answer is?
No, I'm not. No Bon Jovi.
Kid Rock, Michigan.
No,
Okay.
that's a man. That's a tough one. You should have given me a heads up on that one.
Okay, fine. We'll have to do now a part two of like where we reveal the answer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll keep it as a surprise. How's that?
Yeah, maybe do like a little like snap of like, yeah, everyone's waiting on the seat edge of their chair, figuring out what Darren's theme song would be to his life.
The arrogant side of me has some ideas. The more humble side of me says, "Well, that's not a good idea." So,
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Well, no, I really appreciate you taking the time. Sorry for the last minute curveball. Um, our group, thank you for saying those kind words about working with our group, but we truly have enjoyed working with you and Ed and the others at Virginia Tile Organization. I think it's really fascinating, this idea of how you guys are transitioning as an organization, and now the exciting news of you guys merging with Gallagher, and what's that going to mean for your organization. So it's all super exciting, and I'm glad we're able to kind of have it as a topic of spectrum of topics, because I think people will be interested to learn that.
no, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm glad you guys are a part of it right now. And I'm looking forward to working with you guys, continuing to work with you guys down the road. We look for good partners all the time in all the things that we need help with, right?
Yep.
And you guys have been great. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.